I slept with an old flame during a work trip and my husband has no idea. I met Dee in the 6th grade, science class to be exact. We weren't really friends for the first couple of years of knowing each other. We began talking more around the age of 13-14 and immediately clicked. We had a shared interest for a particular hobby, and once we bonded over that, everything else snowballed. We started to develop feelings for each other, but due to my immaturity at the time I never really agreed to officially date. I will spare the details, but unfortunately we had a very painful falling out, and by the time high school came around we were no longer speaking. We did eventually reconnect, but that was followed by several instances of going back and forth between being inseparable to no contact. It was always rooted in Dee's inability to be my friend because he still had romantic feelings for me and it made things difficult for him. Dee moved across the country not long after we graduated high school, and any contact we had going forward was always virtual. We finally got to a point where it seemed like it was possible for us to be just friends. I got into a long-term relationship and Dee was dating other people as well. My long-term relationship turned into a marriage, and I've now been with my husband, M, for a total of 6 years. After a couple of years of being married, feelings for Dee began to resurface. We would talk and text all the time. There were a lot of flirtatious messages being sent. Several times I found myself wanting to cross the line completely. Dee and I had never been together sexually and I found myself longing for that sort of encounter with him more and more. I think we both knew what we were doing was wrong. At that point it was pretty much a case of emotional cheating. So we went no contact again and stayed that way for quite some time. Until recently. I got a new job last year where I've had several opportunities to travel for work. I was recently asked to go to Phoenix for a 2-month assignment. Phoenix is where Dee lives. I hadn't seen him in 10 years, which feels crazy to put into words. I fought with myself not to reach out, but I couldn't help it in the end. I surprised him by showing up to his job. He owns a small cafe, with a couple of things I had collected over the years that I always wanted to give to him. Understandably, he was in shock to see me standing there in the flesh, and I can say I practically felt the same way seeing him. I couldn't really get a read on how he felt about seeing me after so long, but I gave him the name of my hotel and told him I'd be in the restaurant at 5 p.m. if he wanted to catch up over dinner. He came and we had such an amazing time chatting, reminiscing, laughing. 2 hours flew by and I didn't want it to end. I asked if he wanted to come hang out in my hotel room for a while. I told myself that it was possible for us to just enjoy each other's company without crossing a boundary, but deep down I wanted to take it a step further. We hung out for a few more hours, drinking and laughing. Eventually we got tired. I laid down to close my eyes for a few seconds and he did the same. We inched closer together until we were basically spooning, and after a few minutes of laying like that I could feel him getting hard. I was so incredibly turned on, I really couldn't resist. I turned around and kissed him and I'm sure you can guess what happened next. It was honestly the best sex of my life. I can't even describe what it felt like having him inside of me for the first time. Everything about it was absolutely perfect, from the pace, to the rhythm, the foreplay, everything. His hands on my body felt like electricity. I never orgasmed like that until I was with Dee. From then on we saw each other almost daily. We continued to sleep together and each time felt just as good if not better. Of course in the back of my mind I felt tremendous guilt, knowing that I was betraying my husband in the worst way possible. But it just felt too good to stop. Even writing this out now makes me feel a certain way. I got home from my work trip 3 weeks ago and my husband doesn't have a clue as to what went on in Phoenix. I know I should end things with him, but I'm scared to actually do it. I've built a life with him here and I know I'm an absolutely shitty, disgusting person for what I've done. I've already been asked to return to Phoenix for another 2-month assignment beginning in September. I've tried to reason with myself, but in the end I just know I'm not going to be able to resist seeing Dee again. Update. My husband and I have had this ongoing debate for the entirety of our relationship. When he makes pasta, he will mix the noodles and sauce together straight away. When I make it, I leave the noodles and sauce separated until just before serving. If there are leftovers, I will store the noodles and sauce separately. Although each of us have our preferences, we typically leave it up to whoever is doing the cooking to decide how the sauce/noodles will be served and stored. I recently came back from a 2-month work assignment, and my return also happened to coincide with a bunch of my in-laws coming into town. My husband wanted to host a dinner at our home for his family and asked if I could take on all of the cooking. I'm normally the one to do most of the cooking in our relationship. I enjoy it and I would say that I'm pretty good at it, objectively better than he is. I've been complimented many times from many different people over different meals I've made. However, I am by no means a professional and I've never been asked to cook for such a large group before. I wasn't totally comfortable with taking on that role for this occasion, and plus I kind of wanted to chill and be lazy for a while after being away for work for an extended period of time. But my husband really wanted to impress his family, so I begrudgingly agreed. I ended up making several different dishes, one of those being a bolognese sauce with pappardelle noodles. I made sure to plate it up really nice and topped it with freshly grated Parmesan cheese and basil. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. Later that evening, my husband pulled me aside and was clearly unhappy that I hadn't mixed the noodles and sauce altogether. His reasoning is that he and his entire family prefer everything mixed, and that I should have made it according to their preferences since I knew that. He said it made no sense to make it according to my preferences when I was the only person out of 15 that liked it that way. I told him if it were really that big of a deal, that he should have taken on all of the cooking. We went back and forth for a bit and I finally said, if I'm the one cooking, then I'm going to make it the way that I think is best. I don't care what everyone else's preferences are. That irritated him even further and he basically expressed that he thinks I was being rude and inconsiderate. It's not like I ignored anyone's dietary restrictions, there were none. Cooking a multiple-course meal by yourself for a large group is a lot of work and the fact that he had the audacity to complain about noodles and sauce is beyond irritating. It's been a couple of weeks since this has happened and I haven't been cooking our dinners as I normally do. I told my husband that since he seems to be such a picky eater, he can figure it out himself. Ita? Update 2. After cheating repeatedly over the span of 2 months, tomorrow I will finally tell my husband that I want a divorce. Tomorrow afternoon I will be telling my husband that I want a divorce. We've spent 6 years together, and in the beginning I never would have dreamed of being with another man. It started in the bedroom when he was unwilling to listen to my suggestions for things that would make me feel good. Instead, he would become offended and act as though he knew better than I did for what would be pleasurable for me. I tried talking with him about this several times, and each time he would get upset and act like I was attacking his manhood. After a while I just gave up completely and continued faking orgasms to make him happy. When I started feeling more like his mother than his partner, the sex got worse. It was all of the stereotypical stuff, having to pick up after him constantly, being the main one to cook and clean, and so on. He's gotten incredibly lazy over the years. We don't go out anymore, we don't do date nights. His main thing is chilling at home and watching TV or playing video games. I'm fine with that, but I also want to do more sometimes. We both are lucky in that we have well-paying jobs. I've expressed on numerous occasions that I have dreams outside of the corporate world, dreams that have the potential to come into fruition within the next couple of years so long as I continue being smart financially. Although he tends to be very lazy and lethargic at home, he's very much into the work grind culture, and because of this, anytime I talk about my wants and desires for the future, he immediately shuts them down as being stupid. I've tried reasoning with him about some of these things over the years, but he just doesn't seem to get it or understand how I'm feeling. The emotional cheating started about a year after we began having issues in our relationship. I knew what I was doing was wrong and eventually went no contact with the person whom I was cheating with. By chance, I recently got sent on a work assignment that happened to be in the same city as the person that I was cheating with. We saw and slept with each other repeatedly over the span of 2 months during my assignment. It was quite literally the best sex of my life. This person was an old flame, if you will. We've always had a strong emotional connection, but it just never really worked out. Sort of a right person, wrong time kind of thing. He is someone I knew from long before I ever met my husband. Obviously I should have just initiated a divorce as soon as I saw that the issues in my marriage weren't going to get resolved. I've struggled with the idea of walking away from this relationship because I remember what it was like in the beginning, completely perfect in every way. I've held out hope that maybe things could return to the way they once were. Not only that, but despite the issues, we've built a very comfortable life together. Nice home, nice cars, financially comfortable, pets. I know what I've done makes me a terrible person. I should never have let the affair with my old flame get this far before ending my marriage. But in all honesty, I should probably feel worse about it than I actually do. All the times my husband has disregarded my feelings over the years has created a sort of numbness in how I'm feeling over this whole situation now. I've already been called a hooer and a shut by randos on the internet, I get it. But I think it's rare that cheating situations are ever truly black and white. I'm not really sure of what I plan to do after the divorce is finalized. But I can already feel a huge weight lifting off my shoulders.